Discussing cyber ethics, the right and wrong of computer and internet use with students is critical. Copyright and plagiarism are not the same, though they're often conflated in the public mind. Plagiarism is not a legal crime but an ethical offense in which a writer or creator falsely claims a work as their own. Copyright, by contrast, is a legal term for the exclusive right to reproduce, publish, distribute, or sell an original work. Both plagiarism and copyright infringement are unethical, but only copyright infringement is illegal. At the same time, both practices are rampant. Cheating has become an epidemic in American schools. Are teachers to blame? Fed up with cheating, one professor decided to take a hard stance, and he scanned all student papers. By the end of the semester, 22 of 108 students admitted to plagiarizing. His crusade created a climate of mistrust among his students. He received his lowest student evaluations ever, leading to his lowest raise ever. This teacher paid a significant financial penalty for doing the right thing and concluded to never pursue cheating again. There is, in effect, a kind of don't ask, don't tell policy. Consider this scenario. A teacher attended a conference with two other teachers from their school. At the conference, they participated in a session where they learned some strategies from local professors. The teachers implemented the practice in classrooms and observed success. The next fall, the colleagues offered to provide professional development to the rest of the faculty. The teacher noticed most of the content was remarkably similar to that at the conference. In fact, it was the same. The teachers had not cited the researchers or noted whether permission was granted. The teacher learned the colleagues were going to be paid to offer the presentation at a school district across town. What would you do? Would you report your colleagues to your boss? Experience indicates that whistleblowers are not viewed as champions of character, education, or professional ethics. Likely, they would be viewed as out of bounds, not their place to police colleagues. So what is the big deal? The big deal is that it is unethical for educators to hold ourselves to the same or higher standards we hold our students. In order to do so, we need an improved understanding of current copyright rules and how they impact teachers and students.
Copyright is a federal law of the United States that protects original works of authorship. A work of authorship includes literary, written, dramatic, artistic, musical, and certain other types of works. Part of the Copyright Act of 1976 states that people have a right to use copyrighted materials freely without payment or permission for such purposes as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. You can also create curriculum materials and scholarship with copyrighted materials embedded. You can share, sell, and distribute curriculum materials with copyright materials embedded. And learners can, under some circumstances, use copyrighted works in creating new material, and also distribute their works digitally if they meet the standards.
Copyrighted work without permission or paying a fee. This is called fair use. Fair use only applies when using content in certain instances: schoolwork and education, news reporting, criticizing or commenting, and comedy or parody. Specific guidelines, what we call the 4 points of fair use, must also be followed. First, you can only use a small amount of the work. Second, you have to add new meaning to the work to make it original. Third, you need to rework it and use it in a totally different way. Finally, you have to use it for nonprofit purposes. In other words, you can't make money off of your new creation. No matter what, it's a good idea to give credit to the creator of the work you used. It's just a sign of respect. So what should you do if you find something online that you want to use? As a rule of thumb, check who owns it, get permission to use it, give credit to the creator, buy it if necessary, and use it responsibly, which means judging for fair use. You're a creator, innovator, and inspirer. Think twice about your rights and responsibilities in our online culture, and then pay it forward.
There are, of course, violations and consequences for teachers who violate copyright law. As future teachers, we hope that this section makes you aware of the potential consequences if you make an unethical decision in your classroom. As you have seen, teachers make these mistakes pretty often, so we think that it is an excellent idea to get into the habit of following the law right off the bat, instead of learning from consequences. It is also important to lead as examples for your students when teaching in your classroom. While it is unlikely that a teacher will be taken to court for violating copyright law, it is very possible that they will have to have consequences. According to the Digital Citizen, a forum for teachers to use when learning how to use technology appropriately in their classrooms, some guidelines are laid out. In a typical school's manual, there are a code of copyright and ethics that teachers have to follow. For example, while it might be frustrating to a teacher not to have enough textbooks for the entire class, copying pages from a textbook and distributing them to their students is technically a violation of copyright code. Teachers can face serious legal consequences and even a termination of their job. While this is typically not the case for a first offense, it is very important for teachers to be mindful of their practices. It is also important to note that teachers are faced with many more challenges in the typical school day than before because of all of the technology that is so prominent in the classroom. Because education is such a prominent force in today's technology is such a prominent source in today's education system, teachers need to constantly remind themselves of using copyrighted images, music, and other forms of copyrighted material. It is important, however, not to be too afraid, because there are those fair use laws that Emily talked about that will allow you as teachers to have more space for movement in your classroom. Abiding by the fair use policies is an excellent way to dodge consequences. We hope.
Have you ever incorporated an image from online to better engage your students, or used a video from YouTube to further explain something, or posted an image to your blog that was just perfect? Well, if you said yes, you're probably a wonderful teacher who is dedicated to showing their students great content, but may also be a copyright crook. Here's how to combat possible copyright issues in your classroom. Here is how you navigate using images in your classroom. There's always the option to create your own. You can illustrate your own image or even take your own photo. Another option is to ask permission of the photographer and credit them with the photo once you've gained permission. It is okay to use photos in your classroom that may be copyrighted. When it is not okay is when you publish those images. So it's okay to use the images and things that will be shared, like a PowerPoint you may upload or a blog post. It may seem stressful where to find images. Here are some good sites you can use as resources for images: Creative Commons, Stock Snap, Good Free Photos, and Photos for Class. Google Images also has a tool you can use in your search called Usage Rights. This will remove all photos that have not been labeled for some kind of reuse. Now let's talk about movies. You are allowed to show films in your classroom, but there are a few limitations. It's important that your classroom environment be face-to-face and not in another setting. This means it cannot be a streaming of a film to a student's residence for homework. You are allowed to display in class a multimedia presentation including film clips, but are not permitted to post the presentation to a website. It also needs to be obtained legally. You cannot show films that your grandma pirated off her cousin's nephew's DVD. It needs to be legitimately acquired in order to be shown in the classroom. These can be purchased from your librarian or even rented, so long as they are being viewed in the classroom and obtained legally.
So what can we do as teachers to curb these types of plagiarism, copyright violations, or cheating in our classrooms? There are many different ways we can assure that our students are submitting original and authentic pieces of work. First, we can use programs like Turnitin.com, where students can submit their work. The program will then scan through the text and cross-examine it with other text submitted on Turnitin.com or text archived other places on the web. Secondly, we can teach students how to properly cite sources. Students might get in trouble for plagiarism because they truly might not know how to cite their source, or that they even need to cite it at all. Along with teaching what is considered plagiarism and copyright infringement, it is also important to discuss the consequences of getting caught committing one of these infractions. We can also encourage and promote intrinsic motivation. The more a student feels intrinsically motivated, the more they care for the quality and originality of their work. When a student is more extrinsically motivated, the more likely they are to cheat and plagiarize on assignments. There are many ways we can do this, but a main way we can encourage intrinsic motivation is by valuing a product of work, not the grade itself.
We hope this presentation helped you learn, and remember, when it comes to copyrights and ethics, always steer towards the safe side. Thanks!